the 60 mama pigs that are in here, and all of them have piglets. All of them range between, like I said before, 10 to 15 piglets. Usually a mama sow can raise about, she can raise 16 piglets, but they also can raise less too. So when we look around here, like number. So when that mama sow has piglets on her, and she's nursing 15 piglets, she'll eat up to 30 pounds of food in one day. Now, a mama sow isn't always going to eat that much food. When you're in our other barn called the gestation barn, when they don't have piglets on them, they'll only eat about 5 to 10 pounds, depending on their size. Okay? When we look across this room, it's pretty tough to see, but a lot of our sows are the same size, right? We don't want sows to get too big, and we don't want sows to get too small, okay? So we'll kind of keep them all the same size, and we actually have this, it's called a back fat caliper. We'll put on their back and kind of measure their back to see how big they are, okay? A sow can nurse maybe 15, 16 piglets, right? But she gives birth to maybe sometimes a lot more, sometimes a lot less. I've seen a mama sow have 28 piglets. That's crazy. That's a lot of piglets, but I've also seen a mama sow have 1 piglet. Okay, so we don't know how many piglets they're going to have until they farrow or give birth. Farrowing just means they're giving birth, kind of a fancy name for it. And we have a lot of employees here every day to make sure that, the mama sows are giving birth okay, they're farrowing fine, making sure they have food and water. So at my farm, we have 21 farmers that come to work every day. And the first thing they do every morning is check the food and water. Food and water is really, really important. If you guys have any pets, any dogs or cats, or any, any sort of pet, the most important thing is food and water, right? If you guys get home from school or if you wake up in the morning, depending on how you guys do it, you always got to make sure there's food and water no matter what every day. And at our farm, we make sure our sows have food and water 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Even on Saturdays and Sundays, we have farmers that come in and we check and make sure everything's running properly. Okay? So if you look at these feeders, they will always have food in it. We constantly have feed lines running that's bringing food in. And it's a good way to see how much they're eating. Okay, so if we come in the morning and it's completely full, well, maybe she's not eating that much. But if we come in like that sow down there and the tube's almost empty, we know that sow is eating a lot of food. She's producing a lot of milk. She's doing really good. So maybe this is a sow that maybe we get up, we kind of check her out, make sure she's doing okay. But if she's sick, we'll probably end up treating her, okay? Because when you and I get sick, maybe we get a headache, we don't feel good, we'll take some medicine to feel better, right? So that's how we'll treat our pigs. We'll make sure they get the medication they need, and we actually have a doctor or a veterinarian that comes to our farm. He's been here quite a bit lately. He'll come maybe once a week, once every other week. We'll go over the medications. We'll go over the sow and herd health, make sure everything's up to par and everything's running good. Okay? So another question is, so at our farm we have 7,000 sows, and we have about 12,000 piglets. That's a lot, right? We have to keep track of every single one of those pigs. And a lot of people ask, well, how do you do that, right? Well, it's a lot of paperwork and a lot of stuff that goes into the computer. So we don't name all our sows. We don't give them names like Freddie and Jackson or names like that. We'll give them a number, okay? And this one's number is 44083. So every sow in here, every mama sow, does have their own number, their own individual number. So we'll put all their information in the computer, how many times she farrowed, how many piglets she gave birth to. So every sow has one of these feed cards. So we'll come in the morning and we'll write down how many pounds she ate, kind of keep track of her water intakes and stuff like that. So that's really important. So do you mix up the feed yourself or does it get delivered to the farm? Okay, so that's a really good question. So if you guys drive down the road right now, you guys see a lot of combines, maybe a lot of wagons or semis full of grain, corn, soybeans, stuff like that. Well, we have, I don't know, I'm not sure how many acres of corn, but we have a lot of corn. And that corn helps produce enough food for our pigs, right? So we have our own feed mill. So we'll combine the corn, we'll take it to the feed mill, and at that feed mill, that's at our main office, we'll grind the corn, we'll put the extra ingredients into it, and that's where we'll make the food look like this, all at our own feed mill. okay? And then we have a bunch of semis and a bunch of semi truck drivers that will deliver that corn from the feed mill to the sow farm. And at our farm, we go through about a semi-load of food a day. So that's a crazy amount of feed. So we always have truck drivers coming to our farm delivering feed, which the feed gets brought into our farm. It's a long process to make sure that we're feeding things out. So there's a lot that goes into it. And we don't produce enough corn. To supply all of our pigs for a full year. Only about, I would say, about 3 months. So all of our corn that we have supplies enough for our sows for about 3 months. So that means we need other farmers to grow corn so we can buy it from them, bring it to our mill, and produce enough feed. So it really takes a lot of farmers, not only rice field, to help make everything work. Okay? So we talked about food and water. We talked about the environment, which is really, really important, and a lot of, making sure that our sows aren't overweight, they're not too skinny, making sure we're back fatting correctly, taking their measurements correctly on their map, so we're feeding them the right amount of food. But I would say the most important thing is environment. That's one of the main reasons why we do have our pigs inside a farm or under a roof. Sometimes it's raining or it's cold, it's hot. Well, they're all protected from that inside our farm. It's always really comfortable. So, if you guys have any more questions, or you guys want to see anything again, feel free to type them in the chat. So the question is, how long do you keep the piglets with the sow? So at our farm, we'll keep them for about 21 days. Okay, so these piglets are about 6 to 8 days old. So that means in about 10 to 12 days, we'll go to another farm, which is pretty similar to Tim. So, and when we look here, a lot of these sows are in stalls, right? Well, these sows don't stay in a stall their whole life. They'll stay here just when they have piglets on. So for about 20 days, and then they'll go into another farm, our gestation barn, and that's where they get put in groups of 12. So we'll have a bigger pen. There'll be 12 sows in there. They'll be able to run around. Their feeders and waters look a little different, but they still have access to food and water, water 24 hours a day, and feed just a couple times a day. Because they do eat less when they're in our gestation farm. So, how do you know which piglet goes to which sow? Good question. So when we look here, every sow has these white panels, okay? And it's kind of hard to see on the camera, but it's kind of like I don't know the measurement, but it's maybe 6 foot by 4 foot. So every sow, every piglet, or their litter of piglets have their own little pen or their own little stall, and that's how we can track them all. We might move some piglets around. So say a mama sow has 25 piglets and a mama sow has 5 piglets. We might move some around to kind of even them out, and they'll help nurse the piglets this month. So the next question is, how many litters do you get one pig in 1 year? So usually a mama sow will farrow about 2.5 times a year. So about 2 times a year, they'll be pregnant for 3 months, 3 weeks, 3 days. So guys, when I see it is already, I kind of used up kind of a lot of time here, but maybe I will have Farmer Tim jump on now, and he'll show you guys around his farm. So if you guys can remember the size of these piglets, then imagine that Tim's farm. They're the same piglets, well, not the same piglets, but
So my name's Tim Sadler, and I also work at Reichsview Farm. But unlike Isaac, where he works at the beginning stage, or where the piglets are, I work at the last stage of their growth, or where the finishers are. So I travel around every day to all different barns, and these barns are all separate. That way things like biosecurity and feed and all these things are easier to do. Usually we have like 1 or 2 farmers that maybe they have cattle, or they raise corn and soybeans or things like that, and they just need a little extra income or a part-time job. And so this is kind of what they do. And so my job is to drive around, visit the pigs, make sure they're healthy, make sure they're doing okay. And then when they're ready for market, I go in there and I mark which ones we want to sell when. Maybe we're selling the biggest ones or the medium sizes and things like that. So this is the office of the finisher, so it's pretty small. So we have a little counter. We keep track of like our paperwork, things like that. Our biosecurity is a little different. We just have just a little ledge, and so these would be my work shoes, and so they stay outside, and then I put on work boots at every barn. So I don't want to track any dirt or any disease on the ground into the barn. So every day I sit down and take my boots off and swing my feet over, and I put this on. And so every barn I usually wear a mask, and then I have like a suit to keep me clean, and then keep the diseases on my clothes that could be on me away from the pigs. And then I have boots, and I can put on gloves, earplugs, things like that. So we'll go into the barn now. So most barns are about 2,500 pigs. So Isaac's farm had about 7,500 pigs. So we're about the third the size of him. So this is a finisher. So our pigs are in single pens right now. This one, these are actually market size. So these are right similar to the South feeder, really full. Our feed looks just like Isaac's, but it's different. We can put maybe more fat in it or more protein. Or if they're sick, we can put medicine. We could put more vitamins and minerals. And then on the bottom, there's a little water, so they eat and drink in the same spot. Yep, so visitors wear special boots too. So the grower or the farmer who takes care of the barn usually has a pair that's nice. You can take it home, wash it, things like that. He'll have a pair of boots. And then sometimes visitors like me can just wear this one. It's kind of like a one-time use one, and we can throw it away, and then next time we'll bring more. So these pigs are about boys and girls together. They're very curious. They're really healthy. They're nice and big. And their main job is just to enjoy their time and just eat and drink and grow. And so we have someone do chores twice a day. So we check on them. We make sure they're drinking enough water. We check to make sure they're eating enough food. And if they're not eating food or if their water drops, then we know that maybe they're sick or maybe they have a cough or something, so we can treat them. We use there's fans in the back of the barn. It's kind of hard to see, but this front is a curtain. And so when it gets really hot, you can see it's cracked a little bit. The curtain will lower, and then the fans pull the warm air or the cool air from outside all the way through the barn. And so just like a sow farm, we keep this barn about 60 to 70 degrees. As they get bigger, we lower it a little more. Pigs can't sweat, so they prefer weather that's a little cooler compared to warmer. So we like to keep it around like 65 degrees. That's what they like. And then in the winter, they produce a lot of heat, and we also have heaters. So like last night, our heaters were kicking on to keep the pigs warm. So they all, you can tell they're moving around, they're comfortable. They're all in their own little groups together. Pigs come in, so they leave the sow farm, and then they go to a nursery. And a nursery looks just like a finisher, but they just have the really small pigs. And that's really tough because they need to teach the piglets how to go from milk to feed, and that's a really hard transition. So they have to give a lot of attention to them. They wet the feed, so it kind of tastes different. And once they leave a nursery after 3 or 4 months here, then they come here. And so usually when they come here, they're about 50 pounds. So if you think in about 3 to 4 months, probably 4 months, they gain about 250 pounds. So we like to market them or sell them when they're about 280 pounds bigger. So we have slats on the floor, and so hard to see down there, but so when they go to the bathroom or they do that stuff, it just falls through the floor, and they walk and they push it through. So the floor actually looks pretty clean. It's hard to tell, but it really doesn't have much on it because just them walking and rolling around pushes things through. And we store all the manure and everything in the bottom, and then every spring and fall we'll pump it outside onto our fields. And so most barns, I'll walk through a window, but most barns have cornfields around us. And so in the spring and fall we put manure on the field, which is fertilizer for the corn. And then in the fall they harvest the corn, and then we use that corn all year long to feed our pigs again. So it's kind of a big cycle of the pigs helping the corn, and then the corn in turn helps the pigs.